Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Toss-Up. I'm Riley Woodall. We've got a killer show lined up for you this week. Yes, it's everything Indiana volleyball. We'll break down the Hoosiers' roller coaster ride of a season so far. And later, Madi Sell will join the show to talk about her journey from a Missouri Tiger to an Indiana Hoosier. It's all next on the Toss-Up. We all know that as time goes by, it brings changes with it. And it feels like every year that has passed in Bloomington, Indiana volleyball has gotten better and better, scratching and clawing their way past competing with the best of them to beating the best of them. But so far this year, it's been a struggle against the upper echelon of the sport. Will this finally be the season that Steve Aird's squad takes that next massive step up? We've got all the answers for you, and I'm joined by Talia Goodman, Joe Elms, and Andrew Hillsman. Guys, thank you for coming on the show to talk some IU volleyball. So I'll pose the question to the floor to kick us off here. A bit of a struggle last time out for the Indiana Hoosiers, road trip to the West to take on Oregon and Washington. What were your takeaways from those two matches?
I think for me, obviously, it did not go the way that head coach Steve Aird hoped it would go, right? It didn't go the way any of them hoped it would go. They went away with just winning one set in the course of two matches, which isn't what you hope for. But it did emphasize the fact to me that Avery Tatum is just crucial to this team's offense right now and to their attack. She had, I think, 24 kills against a really, really talented Oregon team. And I think consistency is the biggest thing that they have to work on because you see flashes of it, right? You see the All-American Cam Hayworth, you see what she can do, but they need to work on a more consistent approach.
I mean, it's clear that, Talia, to your point, this road trip did not go the way that the Hoosiers wanted it to. It didn't go really in any sense of the word. I consider myself an optimist, so after this, I'm trying to take away some of the good things that happened. Avery Tatum was great, and she is absolutely crucial to this team's success. And they stayed in those games. Especially, I want to kind of take the game against Oregon as an example. They gave the Ducks everything they could handle.
Yep.
And Oregon is one of the best teams in the country. They're number 11. They're probably going to go up a little bit after this win, right? They're one of the best teams in the country. But the Hoosiers gave the Ducks everything they could handle. And then some. That right there, that immediately jumps out to me. That's something that you can build on. And even though they didn't win the game, okay, whatever, that's something that you can build on if you're Steve Aird and this Hoosiers team.
Yeah, Andrew?
For me, I think it's about, they played two really good teams. Washington, the top vote getter, unranked, but just outside that top ranked teams. And Oregon, the number 10, 11 team in the country. And, of course, they didn't play as well as they wanted to against Washington. Against Oregon, it was a different story. They decided, hey, we're going to do something a little bit different, and they kept them close in every single set. It was a 3-1 loss, but they learned a lot about themselves. They can pass, they can serve, they can hang with anybody in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is the best conference in college volleyball. They can hang with these two teams. They can hang with a lot of people.
Yeah, not exactly the best start into conference play, but they've still got a lot of season left. So, Talia, as Indiana volleyball heads into the rest of Big Ten Conference play, what are the strengths they can rely on, and then what are some weaknesses that they need to overcome?
Yeah, I think their serving is very clearly their biggest strength between Cam Hayworth, who is now back and able to jump. She wasn't able to at the beginning of the season, but she's healthy now and she can do it. And her serve is really impressive. And then Kenzie Daphne, who can come in, who comes in as a serving specialist, and that's what she's able to do. There are so many of them on this team who just serving is their strength in a really dominant conference right now. But I think, consistency, like I said, is the biggest thing they have to work on. They looked a little squirrely this past weekend, so I think that's something that they may want to work on heading into the rest of conference play. They have a homestand coming up here, and so I think that's what they'll do.
So, Joe, we've mentioned some of the big names on the team. Cam Hayworth. Haven't mentioned Candela Alonso Corsellas yet, but she's great. Ramsey Gary, of course. But who do you think is a player that has emerged in the early going of this season that is flying under a lot of people's radars that you are impressed with?
I don't know if this is going to be this may not be like a popular choice for this question, but you alluded to her at the beginning of the show. Give me Madi Sell from, So let me say my piece. So
This is
when-
your Oscar moment.
yes, this is yeah. When I think when we and kind of like nationally think about Indiana volleyball, we think about three of the players that jump out to me are Cameron Hayworth, Madi Sell, and Candel Alonso Corcels. And I mean, how can you not, right? They're three of the best players on the team. And taking Alonso Corcels in particular, have you seen the start to this season that she's gotten off to? She's been incredible. But I think that Madi Sell, coming in from Missouri, coming from Columbia to Bloomington, I think that she has made kind of an underrated impact on this team that not a lot of people are talking about. And do her stats necessarily jump off the page? No, but sometimes they don't need to, you know? And I think there are a lot of other names on this team. I'm thinking like Kenzie Daphne is also one that I thought about picking. But I would say overall, I'd say Madi Sell kind of sticks out to me as a player who is kind of flying under the radar a little bit.
So we mentioned Madi Sell, obviously, but I want to go to Andrew on this one and dive into it a little bit more. New face. There's plenty of new additions and transfers on this IU volleyball team this year. What have they done to propel this team forward so far in the season?
I think it's hard to talk about transfers and impact players without mentioning Delaney Maple.
Yeah.
Played 4 years at USC on the beach, came over to the hard floor, and has been a plug-and-play individual for Steve Aird's squad. She's been unbelievable. I mean, she's made this switch from beach to hard court volleyball. It's a whole different game. Obviously, some of the skills are going to transfer over, but it's a completely different sport. She's picked it up quick, and she's been such a crucial part of Steve Aird's rotation thus far early in the season. Another person that I really want to highlight is the freshman middle blocker, Ella Boersma.
Yeah.
Again, plug-and-play player that you lost Colheed and you lost Ramelsburg over from last year. Now you've got Boersma who can step into that role as a freshman, which is really impressive to do and just to see. And she's been a force to be reckoned with.
She's dominated.
Front line.
Yeah.
She's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we look down the road to the rest of the Big Ten conference schedule, how do you guys see Indiana volleyball shaking out?
I think it's hard. It'll be hard for them to beat the Wisconsins, the Nebraskas, the Penn States. I think we could see another revenge matchup against Purdue. I think when they come here, that's always one that is a big motivating factor, right? And the crowd was crazy last year. They did it. I think they can do it again. I think this year has been a little tougher than they anticipated, so I don't know if the biggest upsets are going to happen, but I think they can hope to steal a few sets against some of those big teams, and a big recruiting class comes in next year. And so I think next year is the year where they really have that shot.
You know, Talia, you mentioned how the beginning of the year and this schedule so far it's been a little tougher than they expected, and I think a pretty relatively vaunted, I think, non-conference schedule and kind of getting into Big Ten play by playing the two newest teams in the conference. That's a tough way for any team to start. But I think they have a big opportunity to rack up some very important home wins this upcoming weekend, right? Michigan State Friday and Ohio State Sunday. Those are a couple games that I got my eye on. And, of course, the environment for the Purdue game is going to be nuts.
Wilkinson's gotten loud over the years.
Yes.
It's really been impressive to see the fan base grow.
Really loud. The fan support has been unbelievable these past couple of years. And kind of like the Big Ten is, there's no argument. It's the best conference in volleyball, right? There's really no argument on that front. It's going to be difficult to beat teams, Talia, like you said, Nebraska, Wisconsin, even Purdue. And Purdue's looked great to start out the year.
That's a rivalry match too. You never know.
Yeah,
brings their A game.
That's too. And it's going to be a really, really tough slate just because of how vaunted the Big Ten is. But I think Indiana has a shot to do some big things on that schedule.
Andrew, take us home.
For me, it's too early to say any definitive judgments about IU because they've played such tough competition in their non-conference schedule, which has been a trend that Steve Aird has kind of built in these last couple of years. Obviously took over the program. This is a rags to riches story that we're looking at. I mean, Steve Aird has been so good at recruiting and just coaching these players up and building a team that struggled to win double-digit games now is winning double-digit conference games in the last couple of years. I think the first 2 games that they're playing at home, these 2 games this weekend, Michigan State and Ohio State, are going to be really telling. How do you play in front of a home crowd against conference opponents, and what momentum can you carry into those big games? You go to Nebraska, you play Purdue twice. Those are going to be huge games. And then down the stretch, Michigan and Illinois, I believe, are the 2 games that end the year for Indiana. It's going to tell a lot. And this team has a good potential. They've got a good standing in the RPI. Obviously, they're not ranked, but they could make the tournament and make some splashes.
It's an exciting schedule indeed. It'll be interesting to see if they can get their money up, not their funny up, for the rest of Big Ten Conference play. Shout out, JC. Andrew, Joe, Talia, thank you guys so much for coming on the show to talk a little bit of IU volleyball. Don't go anywhere, though. Coming up after the break, Madi Sell will join the show and talk about her career and transformation from black and gold to cream and crimson. We'll be right back.
The Toss-Up, Fridays on IUSTV.
Welcome back to the Toss-Up. I'm joined now by junior middle blocker Madi Sell. Madi, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
So, how does it feel to be on a program that's gone through some dippity-doos, some highs and lows, but is continuously growing and improving? And how does it feel to be a big contributor to that growth?
Yes, thanks for asking. I would say it's an honor, honestly, and I'm just really grateful to have this opportunity. I just have a lot of respect for the people involved with the program. Steve, our head coach, he's amazing, and just Rachel and Kevin and Matt and Hallie and everyone behind the scenes that just does so much for us. I'm just very grateful to be a part of something that's so much bigger than myself, and just to be on a team full of such amazing people as well. Like the girls that I am around every single day are truly some of my best friends and people that I will have in my life for eternity. So I'm really grateful and honored to be a part of something that's a lot bigger than me.
So as a student athlete, what are some of the highlights and lowlights of now playing in the new Big Ten, where you're traveling to the West Coast, just finished up a road trip to Oregon and Washington?
Yeah, it's definitely been super interesting coming from the SEC. I've said this since I kind of committed to Indiana. I'm just super excited to be a part of the Big Ten just because there's no volleyball like Big Ten volleyball, and I will stand by that, and it's proven itself to be that way. I think we've had some, ups and lows, and just it's part of being a student athlete. I mean, I woke up at 6:30 this morning, and I've been go, got done with practice about an hour ago, sprinted home, showered, got here, and I think
now we're here.
Just, right. And it's part of the grind, and so I think there's highs and lows, but, we had a great practice today, super excited going into this weekend, our first home, Big Ten tournament, so I'm just really excited. I just think that it's a grind, but it's such a special grind that not everyone gets to do. So I think just remembering that in the moment when it's go, that I'm going to miss this one day. So
you came in from Missouri, and when you were looking at places to transfer, what was it about IU volleyball that aligned with your goals as a player?
Yeah, so I kind of have an interesting story. And people kind of look at me a little crazy when I tell them this, but I never met any of the girls or... Oh, wow. And I met only one of our coaches who actually doesn't coach here anymore, Brett. He was one of our assistants that ended up leaving after the spring. But I only met Brett in person before committing. And so I think that I just had to have a lot of conversations with Steve, lots of Zoom calls with Kevin and Rachel, our assistant coaches, and just developing a really deep bond of trust from the get-go. Having committed to a place where I haven't met any of the people was such a hard thing to do, but knowing that I already had that super deep foundation of trust just made it so easy. And then also there's a different vibe about Indiana volleyball than a lot of other volleyball programs. They care a lot more of who you are as a person than who you are as a player, and I don't think that can be said everywhere else around the country. So I think that just proves to make Indiana volleyball that much more different. I mean, we come to practice every day, and Steve's first question is, how are you? How can I help? What do you need? And,
That's important.
Yes, regardless of how you played last night. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's just something that I saw right away. I could just tell that these people were good, genuine people.
So what are some lessons you learned at Missouri that you want to carry over to now playing for the Cream and Crimson?
I think I learned really a lot mentally. I think that people don't realize how mental sports are, especially volleyball. I mean, Steve tells us all the time how mental it is, and it is true. And I think that a big piece that I was working on at Missouri before I got here was the mental side of the game. How do you recover from a mistake and just move on to the next point? Because at the end of the day, that's over, and this next ball's coming in 10 seconds, and I need to be that's gone, and like this next ball needs to happen, and how can I contribute moving forward? So I think that that was a big piece for me, and I definitely think that I've transferred that into this season and just even improved on it. I mean, we work on the mental side all the time, and I think that that's really important.
So going back to your high school days, what was your favorite part about playing for Club Rockwood Thunder?
Oh my God.
And how do you feel the club volleyball scene has changed over the past few years?
You're diving deep into the archives. The club volleyball, you know, that whole scenario has changed a lot, especially since I was in it. I committed to Missouri very young. I think I was 15. So very young. I was I think a sophomore in high school, and and I committed, and it's just because at that point in time, I started, I think, getting recruited in about the 8th grade, and then they're like, oh, what do you want to study in college? Do you want to be on a big campus or a small campus? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm 13 years old, I'm not really sure what I want to do, but I think it was just like that whole scene, you know, back in, gosh, I don't even know what year it was when I committed. You were committing so early, and now there's rules in place for club volleyball that you can't talk to girls now until like June 15th of going into their senior year of high school, which is a totally different, or maybe it's junior year of high school. So it's just totally different. And I think that's a great rule because committing so young, not that it was a mistake, I wouldn't change my path at all, but you grow a lot in those years. So I think that that's very different now that that rule's in place.
So we'll look ahead now to future careers.
Mm-hmm.
I did read up that you're studying and wanting to become a CRNA.
Yes.
Where did that dream come from?
Yeah, so I would say it definitely came from when I went through injury. So my junior year, right after I committed, COVID happened. And then so we were kind of shut down for 6 months, finally came back in July, and had a huge injury happen, ended up getting surgery a month later, and I was out for 10 months. And so when I went into the surgery room, I always knew that I wanted to do something in medicine. So I kind of just was like, I might as well use this as an opportunity to maybe learn a little bit. And then I just kind of talked to the anesthesiologist and fell in love with it.
That's remarkable. I love that. I noticed you're wearing the cross too. How much has faith played a part in your journey as an athlete?
Yeah, I wear this cross every day, and people might not know this, but every game I take it off right when we put our jerseys on, and I tuck it into my right sock. So because we're not allowed to wear necklaces during the game, so I still play with Christ, and he's in my sock. But
that's awesome.
But yeah,
that's great.
He's had a great impact on my journey, and just realizing that my worth is not based off of my play. It's based off of my relationship with him, and I know that I can do all things through him. And so I think that that's played a big role, especially as I've matured and grown. And bad day, bad practice, good game, it doesn't matter. I'm walking through it with him. So
amen to that.
Yeah.
Last question for you. It's a bit more of a fun one. I did also read up that you love Harry Potter. You're a Harry Potter fan.
Yes.
I'm a big Harry Potter fan too. So what's your favorite Harry Potter movie and why?
Oh my gosh, all of them, but I think.
2 for me.
I know.
I'm
okay.
gonna wait and see
What are yours? Because I'm
3 and 5.
3 and 5. Okay, so I was. Stop it. I was gonna
Same
say
thing.
Chamber of Secrets, so that's 3.
Okay.
But I really love 5. Is that
Chamber of Secrets 2.
2.
Prisoner of Azkaban 3.
Oh.
Order of the Phoenix 5.
5.
Chamber of Secrets though.
But
great
Goblet
movie.
of Fire is also.
Not with the prom. Not with the prom.
The prom is everything. What are you talking about?
I can't.
Hermione's dress? Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
It is nice. It is a great.
I want to wear that dress.
And we could talk about that for ages and ages. Madi Sell, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
on the
you
show.
so much
Really
for having
love
me.
talking to you.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's going to do it for the show this week. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to continue the discussion and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports. And give our Toss-Up Socials a follow on those same platforms as well. You can catch Indiana Volleyball in action on Friday as they host the Michigan State Spartans. First serve is at 7 p.m. on Big Ten Plus. With that, there's one thing left to do, so set it up. We'll be sure to kill it. And, as always, we'll see you next week. God bless.